Before I turn the floor over to our speaker, first it is Julie Hébert first. Let me introduce her. Julie Hébert. Hello, Julie Hébert. Has a master's degree in education. She is passionate about pedagogical innovation, which she applies on a daily basis. She has set up various projects, including GRIP, which aims to promote pedagogical innovation. More recently, she set up a digital badge system that rewards students for their professional and human values. Welcome, Julie Hébert. And I would like to present you Julie that arrived at 11:30. I don't know Julie Monette. What I can say you that she's a pedagogical advisor at LaSalle College. Enjoy the webinar, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so hello everyone. Can I share my screen now, Nicole? Yes?
Yes, yes.
Okay, very good. Oops. Okay, very good. So hello everyone, my name is Julie Hébert and I'm a teacher, like Nicole mentioned, at LaSalle College in Montreal. I'm really happy to be here today to talk about dual mode teaching. I want to say to start with that I don't consider myself an expert in the field since I've been practicing it only for a few months, but I can say that I'm a curious explorer of new pedagogical approaches and tools. So this is why I'm here with you today. And here are the results of my findings following research, readings, and experimentations on the approach. So what is dual mode teaching? What is a flex room? What are the benefits and the challenges of using this approach? Where should we start? Many questions on the subject. So when I decided to do this webinar, I planned it with 3 objectives in mind. So here are the 3 objectives. So the first one was to demystify the dual mode teaching. Introduce the flex room tools, which will be presented by my colleague, Julie Monette, who was very much involved in the process. She was in the process of implementing new tools at the college. And then I will also be providing you some helpful tips to launch your own dual mode practice. At LaSalle College, we have recently acquired new flex rooms to promote and develop dual mode teaching. During the first part of the pandemic, we had acquired technological tools to allow us to offer hybrid teaching. Then came the ones for dual mode, but those tools will be introduced by Julie Monette in a few minutes. So demystifying the practice, what is a dual mode teaching approach? Dual mode, defining dual mode. So it's the combination of 2 teaching modes. You have the face-to-face mode and you have the distant learning mode. In the distant learning mode, you can have a synchronous mode and asynchronous mode. So synchronous, so at a distance synchronously, it means following class at the same time it is happening. And at a distance, asynchronously, it means to follow class later on whenever it suits them better. So with the real dual mode teaching approach will leave the choice to the students on how they wish to attend class, whether they want to come on campus to be face-to-face with the teachers, with the other students in the class, or whether they want to be at a distance, so either synchronously or asynchronously. I want to mention that at LaSalle College, students cannot choose necessarily their mode. If they want to be on campus or if they want to be online, we give them the option of being online for different reasons. If somebody gets sick with COVID quarantine or being far away and not being able to come to campus. So for some good reasons, we're going to accept them to be online. And the option of following a class asynchronously is not possible. Not possible yet. I don't know if it will be, but it's not possible yet. So let's start with some of the benefits and the challenges for teachers and for students, because both of them will face challenges and both of them have benefits from this type of learning. So if I go with the students, the first one that comes to mind, it's the greater flexibility that it's going to give them, because with this way, students can adapt their learning to their own reality. So yes, we have quarantine and COVID positive testing if it happens, but you can also have other reasons, such as physical injuries, giving you the example of a student that just broke her foot. She's not able to come to campus, but may be able to attend class from home if the online option is accessible. She won't be missing class for that reason. You have the reason of snowstorm, for example, where we can just go online, or if somebody has a sick kid at home. That's another example where the parents will have to stay at home and will avoid missing class if that online option is available. For the students, again, it's going to offer a variety of pedagogical activities. So even if this is also a challenge for the teachers, it is a benefit for the students. It will allow face-to-face contact with teachers if desired, because they have the option of coming to class on campus. And human contact between students is also maintained periodically, because they have the option of attending class on campus from time to time, as opposed to being full-time online. For the teachers, it allows teachers to deepen their practice. And I believe that it allows us to deepen our practice because it forces us to try various ways to make it work. Requires us to be creative, especially when we start. I think that it makes us ready to switch to online teaching in case of emergencies. So depending on what's happening, and if everybody has to go online for some reason, whether it's because of COVID measures or because there's a snowstorm, for example, we're ready. We're ready because the plan, we had already planned that some students would be attending online. So we're ready to switch. On the side of the challenges, we have various challenges. So of course you have the development for the teachers, you have development and animation challenge. Development of the material, of the activities. It's going to require probably extra time to plan your course when you do it for the first time in a dual mode. You have some animation challenges also because you have online students and in-class students. So we have to make sure that we don't forget all students. Another challenge for the teachers is that we need to master technological tools. And there are so many tools. So not only do we have to learn how they work, but how they work together as well. It may require a technological assistant. And this is a challenge because in most colleges, we might not have that option of having an assistant when we give class. So it is a challenge to be to make sure that we are on top of things when we give our class. And then the slower rhythm of the course, because the pace is definitely slower when we go for a dual mode teaching. Some of the challenges for the students now is that it requires more autonomy from them because they're not there in the classroom to be told exactly what to do. So it might require more autonomy for them to attend class online. And the need to have all the technological devices when the course is taken remotely. So now I'm going to let my colleague Julie Monette to present the tools that we use at LaSalle College.
So hi everyone. So as Nicole said at the beginning, I'm a pedagogical advisor at LaSalle College, and I'm here to talk a little bit more about the implementation of our Flex Classroom and the technical and pedagogical support that we offer to the teacher. So I'm going to show, but Julie is going to show you a video after that of the Flex Classroom. But before seeing that, I want to say the reality of our college. So we have a lot of programs that are professional cooking, beauty, fashion. And as she said, we have a lot of foreign students. So we had the necessity to have some students on campus to do the professional and technical programs. And we had the necessity to have some online courses. So in January 2021, we started our first trainings for the teacher, and we came up with the technology Crestron and Jabra. Julie, you can put the next slide. So this was our first attempt to do a dual mode classroom. This classroom worked pretty well for the purpose of having simultaneously students online and on campus, but it wasn't the best technology to do interactions and class dynamics because students couldn't see students at home and students in class couldn't see the one online. So in the summer of 2021, the campus created a pilot, the first Flex Classroom. So we're going to show you the video here. So yeah, this is we have 10 classrooms like this. So I'm going to explain to you how we went with this idea. So first of all, the pedagogical team and a bunch of teachers in the semester of summer, decided to try it. And the conclusion was pretty good. It is probably at the moment one of the best technology to do dual mode teaching because we can have a lot of interaction between online students and in class. There are still little things to look like online students cannot really work well in teams. Okay, but we're still looking in this. So in this regard, after the summer, 9 other classrooms has been designed for the fall semester, and 94 teachers has been assigned to at least one of these classrooms. So it was a little bit insane at the beginning because, as we all know, teachers are on vacation this summer, so we couldn't train them before. We had to train them in the first week. But and we had to come up with more and more tech support each week. So what we did as a pedagogical team is that we gave a mandatory training to all teachers assigned to this classroom at the beginning. And we regrouped the IT leaders, the audiovisual leader, and the pedagogical team in a team channel, so in Microsoft Team, where we could discuss the evolution and the implementation, what were the problematics and everything. Then we created a group team called Flex Support, where all the teachers, so the 94 teachers were in this group, could write down their issues immediately to the IT support. We had also full access to help and follow the demands. So that made us develop the guide, the job aid, and a checklist. So when you're gonna have the PowerPoint, you can click on the image and you can see all the documentation that we made. And finally, in December, we also made a technical troubleshooting guide with all the recurrent issues that were written in this Flex support channel. So in conclusion, for my part, I'm gonna say that some teachers developed a lot of good pedagogical activities, such as Julie here, for dual mode teaching. Others are still trying to adapt and do the best they can, and others still hate it. And that's the way it is. But our new goal for now is to continue to combine our strengths with the leaders and the teachers to promote the dual mode teaching and gives in-depth training on best practice and evaluation. So thank you, and I will let Julie continue the presentation.
Thank you, Julie, for that nice presentation. Okay, so the next topic, I'm going to be presenting some helpful tips and the best practices. And I have divided my top into 4 topics. So the first one is going to be helpful tips in planning. I'll have helpful tips in communication, helpful tips in class dynamic, and helpful tips in assessment. So starting with helpful tips for planning. So the first thing to keep in mind when you plan a dual mode teaching course is to focus on quality, not quantity. You need to target the essential elements. So knowing that the pace of class will be slower, choose wisely the content to cover. Think of adding more activities to allow them to assimilate the information than adding new content. As opposed to some misconceptions about dual mode teaching, there's no need to do 2 plans. I mean, 1 plan for in-class students and one plan for online students. There's no need to do that. Of course, if you want to do it, if you want to have distinct activities for in-class students versus online students, you can do it, but you don't have to. You don't have to. And I'll show you in an example. I'll show you an example of it. And I think the next slide. Okay. So there's no need to do 2 plans, and you need to provide clear instructions. This is to make sure everybody understands how class will be happening and what is expected from them, no matter how they will attend class. So I would like to show you an example of a calendar of activities planned for a dual mode teaching course. So this example is taken, I'm not the one who created it. It was taken from Université Laval. It's in French, and I kept it in French. I'm just going to explain it in English. And I've also added the link to that example. So once you receive the presentation, you'll be able to have access to the document if you need to. So, exactly. Okay, there we go. So so the calendar of activities here comes in 5 pages. So on the first 2 pages, you have an example of a course planning for 6 weeks, okay? If you take a closer look to the calendar of activities, you can see in the middle of it 3 columns. 3 columns, because the calendar is probably very much similar to the calendar you're using in your college. It is very much similar to the one we use at LaSalle College, except for those 3 columns in the middle. So, and it's related to the teaching and learning activities. So the 3 columns, you have one for each accessible participating mode. So you have in-class mode, online synchronous mode, and online asynchronous mode. Look at the activities. They are exactly the same. So that's why I was saying that there is no need to do 2 or 3 planning for dual mode teaching, because in this example, the activities are exactly the same. The only exceptions come with the asynchronous mode. Since they're taking class at a different moment, they can participate to the class discussion on the class forum, and then the exercises planned during class, instead of doing them in groups, they have to do it individually. But the rest is exactly the same. And like I said at the beginning, by the way, at Collège LaSalle, we don't offer the option of attending class asynchronously. So in this case of the calendar, for example, we would need only 2 columns instead of 3. So on the second page, you have week 4, 5, and 6. And the activities are exactly the same for the 3 for the 3 columns. On the last 3 pages, so on the last 3 pages, you have the information regarding how each class will be operated. So you have before class, the introduction of class, during class, after class, conclusion, and then after class. So with this planning, students receive clear instructions on how to prepare for each class. You have, once again, the 3 columns in the middle of the calendar, and it's based on the accessible participating modes. And students are given information on what to do before class, how each class will be introduced, how the class activities will be managed and organized, and how class will be concluded as well. So here, because of the different mode, you may have different actions to take, but most of them are exactly the same, once again. Okay, and then you have the development, so how the class will be managed and organized. And then at the end, you have the after, okay? You have the after. You also have the instructions on what to do after class. Now let's go to the helpful tips for communication. One important thing to have prepared is to have an etiquette with clear instructions. And I'd like to, I'm going to show you an example of an etiquette afterwards. I've built one for the presentation. So have an etiquette with clear instructions that you present on your first class. I like to present it for the first 3-4 classes, and I don't hesitate to bring it back and use it as a reminder whenever it's needed. If you have an etiquette, it's very important to make sure the students will respect it. So to remind them to open their camera, for example, or to speak louder to make sure that other students online students will hear the questions, or to use the chat if they have questions, etc. So it's very important to make sure that they're going to respect the etiquette and the class routine. But it's also very important that you respect it yourself, because if you don't, they won't either, and it's going to be useless. Very important to keep a good and open communication with students, especially at the beginning and at the end of class. Don't hesitate to have small talk with them, whether they are online or in class. This is like try to find out and to know how they feel about the participating mode that they have selected, whether they're online or in class. And ask them how they feel about, like if they're in class, how they feel about having online students, etc. You can ask them if they have difficulties with the tools, etc. Try to feel the pulse of the class. This will make it easier for them to reach out for you if something goes wrong, if they have a question, if they feel insecure about something. Create a class routine. This routine can be presented and shared in the course planning, the calendar of activities, as I showed you before. It can be part of the Netiquette as well. So a class routine, for example, as soon as everybody gets in the room, whether they are online or in class on campus, they have to open Teams. Now, I myself ask the students to bring their own computer, so everybody is required to open their Teams when they get on class, and to turn on their cameras if they are online, for sure. They have to turn off their mic if they are they have to turn off their mic, whether they're online or in class. They have to turn it off to start with. Ask questions to students, like I said before, whether it's at the beginning of the class, at the end of the class, whenever you feel the need, ask questions to students about how they feel, but ask questions about the content. Make sure that they understood the question, that they understand the content, that they understand the instructions for the activities. So you want to ensure that there's a good understanding and everybody can keep up with the rhythm as well. This is one thing that I use frequently, is that I write the names of online students somewhere visible on the board. So either I write it myself, or I even ask a student to write their names, the name of online students on the board. It's a way for me to remind myself that I have online students. It's a quick look for me to know their names, to call them out by their names, especially at the beginning of the semester when we don't know necessarily all the name of the students. So if I want to ask a question, I just need to turn my head, and then I see a list of 10, 15 names. I pick one and I ask a question. It's even easier for in-class students to know who's online. And if they want to ask them questions, then it's going to be easier to pick up someone to ask the question to. And then lastly, and this is a tip that was suggested by one of my colleagues, and I thought that it was very interesting. Let the students answer the questions. Whether the students, the questions are asked verbally in class or verbally online, or they are in the chat, why don't you let the students answer the questions? So this will increase communication between them, interactions between them. And it's also a way to know if they understood the content or not, and then you can intervene if there's a need for it. So this is the Netiquette, a Netiquette that I use. I've created 3 sections. So before class, during class, and after class. This is what I show on my first class, like I said before, and then I bring it back. I bring it up from time to time whenever I feel the need for it. So just to go over some of the instructions that I require. So I ask the students to bring their devices and their earphones. The reason why I ask my in-class students to bring their earphones is because I have a lot of teamwork and collaborative work, and I like to mix the groups with on-campus students and online students. So when they work in group on teams, it's easier if they have their earphones, because discussions are easier and it's less chaotic in the classroom. So this is one of the requirements that I have for my classes. So bring your device and then bring your earphones in class. Open your device to reach out our class section on Teams. In-class students, turn on or off your camera. You have the choice. Some of them choose to have it open. Some of them choose to have it off, and it's okay. But turn off your mic. Online students, turn on your camera, turn off your mic. Open your notebook, class manual, or class material. And then please volunteer to be today's moderator, because, and I'm going to talk about it later on, but I have a class moderator every class. And so I ask them to volunteer because I like to change moderator from class to class. During class, I have instructions for online students and instructions for in-class students. So online students, keep your camera on during the entire class. If you have a question, raise your electronic hand or write it in the chat. Ask questions to in-class students. I like when they ask questions. Instead of asking me questions, they ask the question to the students. And I have to say that this is, this becomes kind of a game for them. They're gonna ask questions to friendly trick their friends that are in class or that are online. So it just becomes a funny interactions between them, but it's also very, very useful. So don't hesitate to answer students' questions. Doesn't matter if you're online or in class, you can still answer the questions, and then smile because you're on camera. In-class students, keep your camera on or off, your mic off. If you have a question, so same thing. If you have a question, I ask them to speak loud and clear so online students can hear them, or you can even write it in the chat. They can ask questions to in-class students, and don't hesitate to answer students' questions. After class, the instructions are the same for everyone. Upload your notes in your personal notebook to keep track of them. And this last one is very important. I should put it in bold or in red, but upload collaborative work in your group space so that everybody keeps track of it whenever it's going to be needed. So this is an example. You may come up with your own etiquette, with your own rules or own instructions. That's the good thing. That's the good thing about it. Now we go for helpful tips for class dynamic. Class dynamic, if the best thing to do is to make students active. So use various active learning activities during class. It will increase the students' motivation and participation. Use more authentic and complex tasks, games, investigations, study cases, simulation, and group work. Use televoting tools to stimulate interactions. You can use forms, Poly, Edpuzzle, Kahoot, Genially, Poll Everywhere, and probably there's a lot more that I mentioned there. This is personal to me, but I think that the best pedagogical approaches for dual mode teachings are the flipped classrooms and TBLC, so team-based learning collaborative. Those are two approaches that I specifically enjoy, and I think that they're the best ones for dual mode teaching because of the preparation that is required, because of the group work that comes in often, and so on. So in class, students should bring their device, the device of their choice. It can consist of a computer, an iPad, a phone, but this should have access to the presentation from their device. And they should bring their earphones, like I explained earlier. It will be easier to work in groups with online students to avoid chaos during group discussions. Visual support is very helpful. So use meaningful images to support the content, and to support the content, you can use diagrams, you can use tables, use colorful images. It's going to catch their attention. So in-class students should bring their own device. I talked about that. So for the team creation, you have several possibilities to create teams in class. So version 1, teams with members in class only, and you have other teams with members with online students only. I rarely use this one, but it's always an option depending on what you want to do. I prefer the second version of team creation, and I call them the hybrid teams, which consist of a mix of members in class and online students. So you may also keep the teams, the same teams for the entire semester, like it is better to do for TBLC approach, so team-based learning collaborative. When I use this approach for a class, I'm going to keep the same teams for the entire semester. But you can also change teams for different activities for different class. What's nice about this option is that for dual mode approach, if you're doing it on Teams, you can still use the random team creation option in Teams. It can be used to speed up the process and to just change the atmosphere a bit and the teams. So it's going to change the energy of the groups. So the best pedagogical approaches, I said it already. I talked about the flipped classrooms, the TBLC, team-based learning collaborative, and the peer teaching is also very interesting to use as an activity for a hybrid class, because whether they are online or in class, it doesn't change anything. They can still present what they have prepared. Now, I'm going to talk about helpful tips for assessments. So evaluation modes, create exams with less but more complex questions. This way you can give them access to their notes. So you can avoid, because when you give them access to their notes, it's one way to avoid plagiarism, which you don't have so much control over. You know, when they're online, they can have access to their notes, they can have access to the web. So since you have no control over it, just give them, that's what I do. I give them access to everything. They still need to prepare. They still need to prepare. They still need to know what they're going to be talking about. And I change my questions and my evaluation grids accordingly. What I like about creating exams like this is that it doesn't matter if you do the exam in class or online. You still have access to everything. So nobody has a better position to take the exam. It's fair for everyone. Use electronic versions of exams for all students, so they can choose how they want to do it, but you still send it electronically. Exams format perfect for this approach are the study cases, of course, study cases. They can do presentations and video recording instead of writing their answers. I have them do presentations. They record their answers verbally. They send it to me, and this is how I evaluate their answer. They can do projects, they can do text analysis and thesis, or they can do peer evaluation. An interesting option, one that I like a lot and that I use a lot, is the collaborative exam, which consists of allowing students to work in groups on the exam. So this is very good for the students. It has a lot of benefits. So they can use group discussions to validate their understanding of the questions. They can validate the elements of potential answers. Student could be required to provide an individual exam copy. So even if they have the group discussions to start with, they still need to hand in an individual copy, or you could allow them to submit a group answer, a group answer. So it's according to you. So I think that's it for the electronic versions of the exam. I would like to say that there are different various formats that you can use. So you can, for example, convert your Word exam into a Word form. This will allow you to protect the configuration of your exam, to protect your grids, because you're going to be allowing specific spaces for students to answer the questions, and they won't have access to change or to touch the questions or the evaluation grid. So this is one option. Or you can use the one in Teams also. I like to use the homework section of Teams to distribute my exams and even to collect my exams. So it makes it very easy for me to correct and then redistribute the corrected version of the exam. So different teachers will have different styles. I want to give you an example of my first time when I give a dual mode teaching for the first time. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I was afraid that if I would allow online access, I thought that everybody would go online and I would be alone in the classroom. And so things like this. So to prepare myself to do this, to jump into this new teaching mode, I decided to start slowly. And in my class, allow a maximum of 10 online seats per class. This is how I felt comfortable in starting this project of mine. So students needed to reserve their seats in advance, their online seats in advance. So this way, I wanted them to make a real choice and a conscious choice in attending class online. So instead of choosing this mode because they woke up too late, for example, I wanted them to choose, okay, I'm going to attend class online. So I'm going to wake up, I'm going to put myself or be in a comfortable and adapted space to attend in class, online class. So this is how I started it. And I can tell you that I was surprised to see that the 10 seats were not fully occupied every week. Sometimes I had 10 seats. Sometimes I had 2 extra requests that I refused because I wanted to keep it at 10. But most of the time I only had 2, 3, 4, 5 students that wanted to attend online. And the reasons why they were attending online was because of transportation issues. For example, if they had a class and then they had to go to work after class, it was easier for them if they stayed at home. Some of them were sick, like I gave as examples earlier. So they had valid reasons to to attend online. So it made it easier for me to get familiar with the mode and so on. So I want to tell you, choose a convenient mode for you to start with, to get familiar with it. Don't expect too much. Don't put too much pressure on your shoulders, and choose what's convenient for you. Try something. So don't hesitate to try something and modify it or change it if needed. Everything is not going to work at the first time that you do it. So just so back up, modify it, change it whenever it's needed, and listen to your needs. If something makes you uncomfortable, try to see how you can get more comfortable around it or change it. Choose another option if it's possible. And most of it, listen to the needs of your students, be open and attentive to how they feel about it, what they need, so that you can modify your practice based on those needs whenever possible. I'd also like to come back on some of the challenges mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. So regarding the necessary tools for dual mode teaching, I said that, you know, you need to have the necessary tools to offer this. So the Flex Rooms technology is probably the best one currently on the market. But I want to say that you can still make it work without those tools. There are other tools, as my colleague Julie showed you. There are other tools, and the minimum that you need is a camera, a microphone in class, in the classroom, and a screen projector. And I have to say that I did try it this way also, and it worked. It worked. So of course it's better with the Flex Rooms, but you can still make it work with other tools. Now, regarding the extra time required to plan a dual mode teaching course, I'd like to say that it does require more time to prepare a dual mode course, but I want to insist on the first times because of course, the first time will require some extra time to reflect on how you will deliver your course. You have to review your planning. You have to adapt existing exercises, or you have to go for new exercises, new approach, new tools. And this will take you a certain amount of time. But after that, you get into the habit of thinking your courses this way, and preparation gets easier. So now just keep calm and flex teach.
Oh, so, thank you, Julie. Thank you for this lively, informative, and very inspiring presentation. people were very active in the chat module and active too in the Q&R module. So if you want, thank you, Julie Monette aussi, hein, thank you. May I ask you the questions from the Q&R module?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Of course.
Jessica Di Stefano was very active as in the chat or in the Q&R module. Her first question, Mark Fricker answered the question, but I would like to listen from you too. Have teacher teaching in a dual mode approach practiced collaboration projects exercise between F2F students and online students? If so, are there any recommendations?
I just want to make sure that I understand the questions. Have teachers teaching in a dual mode approach practice collaboration project exercise? Collaboration project and exercise, yes, of course they do. So what do you mean by F2F students? So,
face-to-face.
Face-to-face, okay, I'm sorry, face-to-face students. Of course, collaborative projects and exercises. Like I said before, it's possible to create a collaborative work amongst students, face-to-face students, and then only online students, but you can also combine the groups. So yes, it is possible. Julie Monette, I don't know if you want to answer something else or... No,
I think you gave example after she asked her question about when you do it.
That's it. Okay.
But
okay,
yes, we try to do collaboration between them, but it's the difficult part sometimes because they have to have their computers and to have, I don't remember the word in English.
The devices?
Écouteur.
The earphones.
Earphones, yes.
Exactly. And that's why I said, thank you, Julie. That's why I said that this is one of the requirements that I ask my students, whether when you come to campus to attend class, I want them to have at least one device, and then their earphones, because it's going to make it easier for collaborative work. And yes, so that's it.
Une question en français. Antonio Hilario, d'après votre expérience dans la livraison des cours commodo, en forme commodale, est-ce que les étudiants ont le choix à chaque semaine du type de présence qu'ils préfèrent, ou bien ils font un choix au début de la session et le conservent? S'ils ont le choix, est-ce qu'il y a une variation à chaque semaine du nombre de présences versus en ligne?
Ben, chez nous, au Collège LaSalle, les étudiants n'ont pas le choix encore. Comme j'en ai parlé un petit peu tantôt, là, les étudiants n'ont pas le choix. Ils n'ont pas le choix encore d'être en classe ou d'être en ligne. Ils doivent être en classe. Maintenant, il y a certaines situations pour lesquelles on va accepter qu'ils soient en ligne. Par exemple, quand ils sont en quarantaine, quand ils viennent de tester positif à la COVID, ou parce qu'ils ont des symptômes. Comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure, il y a certains choix. Il y a certaines situations qui vont faire en sorte qu'on va accepter qu'ils suivent le cours en ligne. Dans mon cas, étant donné que je voulais essayer cette pratique-là, moi, ce que j'ai fait avec la permission là, de la direction des études aussi, j'ai voulu laisser le choix à mes étudiants. Comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure, j'ai créé 10 espaces en ligne pour mes étudiants. Et ils pouvaient choisir une semaine d'être en ligne, puis l'autre semaine de ne pas être en ligne. Là, je leur ai vraiment donné un choix, comme le vrai comodal se fait. Par contre, moi, j'ai limité le nombre d'espaces à 10. Et là, je leur demandais de réserver d'avance. Mais le vrai comodal, ben là, il pourrait avoir le choix. Donc, je pense que ça va être selon votre établissement, premièrement. Là, c'est l'établissement qui va prendre la décision s'ils ont le choix ou non. Puis ensuite, ben là, selon l'enseignant aussi, les options peuvent varier.
Et je rajouterais aussi, l'objectif ultime, c'est d'avoir la flexibilité de pouvoir offrir le vrai comodal. Mais en ce moment, on est bien conscient qu'avec les 2 années en ligne, c'est bien que les élèves reviennent sur campus s'ils peuvent. Donc, c'est la flexibilité, justement, comme je le disais, s'ils sont malades, s'ils sont pris dans un autre pays, etc. Puis la fin de la question, c'était est-ce qu'il y a une variation à chaque semaine du nombre de présentiels versus en ligne? Je pense qu'il y a certains élèves qui le laissaient en ligne et qui n'aiment pas ça aussi. T'sais, on a tendance à penser que si on offre le en ligne, tout le monde va prendre ça. Mais je pense que Julie, tu as vécu l'expérience de certains qui l'ont essayé puis tout de suite sont revenus sur campus parce que c'est de la différenciation pédagogique. Ils n'ont pas le même style d'apprentissage puis ils se rendent compte qu'en ligne, ça va moins bien. Donc, les deux, il y a une variation, oui, de gens qui essaient un et l'autre puis qui déterminent leur préférence.
Thank you. Question from Camille Lemieux. Julie Monette answered the question in the Q&A module, but I would like that other participants hear the answer. So for asynchron, how long is the recording made available? 24 to 48 hours a week or what?
Ben nous, on ne le donne pas, là, cette possibilité-là.
The question is in English.
Oh, I'm sorry. At LaSalle College, we don't give that option of attending class asynchronously. But I can tell you that when we were online during the pandemic, I was recording my classes and I let those recordings available for the entire semester because I think that the idea of giving the option of attending asynchronously is to let students the flexibility to follow class whenever it suits them better.
Okay. Other question from Stéphane Potvin. Post-pandemic, will dual mode be considered to reduce the in-person class size, therefore reducing the need for larger rooms?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know about the future, but I can answer that from what I see right now, not so many students will choose the online mode. Only a few exceptions. They do prefer, they prefer in class mode. So depending on what's happening in their life or what's happening during that day, they like to have the option of staying online. But most of the time they prefer to be on campus. And from my experience, most on a class of, when I gave the example of the class where I created 10 online available seats, it was for a class of 30 students. And on rare occasions, the 10 seats were occupied. So it gives you an example, a good idea of the preferences of students.
Thank you. Other question from Sébastien Laperrière. Is there any way a teacher can be online while some students are in class?
Well, the dual mode teaching requires the teacher to be in class on campus because of the tools to activate and so on. Is it possible? I've done it once. I've done it once because I had no choice because I could not get to the school. So I did it out of an emergency situation once, and it's really not the best thing. It's really not the best thing. Students are all together in the classroom and you're online. I don't think it's the best thing. I'm not saying that it's impossible to do, but the dual mode teaching mode usually requires the teachers to be in class for all the classes.
I could see the last question, and important too. Avez-vous, from Rachida, avez-vous déjà fait une étude qui comparait les résultats des évaluations des étudiants en présence versus les étudiants à distance?
Non.
Je peux peut-être répondre un petit peu, oui. Ben, on veut faire ça, c'est dans les projets, sauf qu'en ce moment, étant donné que la population d'étudiants qui sont à distance, c'est pas représentatif, c'est pas équivalent, c'est souvent des gens qui sont dans d'autres pays, dans notre cas, donc qui ont une réalité différente, donc les résultats seraient assez biaisés. Mais dès le moment où on va être en post-pandémie puis qu'on va donner le choix aux étudiants, là, c'est sûr que notre objectif, c'est de comparer les deux modes. On les compare, on pose des questions, on a des formulaires qui sont envoyés 3 fois par session pour voir ce que les étudiants préfèrent. Mais par rapport aux résultats d'évaluation, ça n'a pas été fait tout simplement parce que ce n'est pas des échantillons qui sont représentatifs pour avoir des résultats pertinents en ce moment dans notre situation.
Pardon. Thank you very much. It was a very, as I said before, it was a very interesting presentation, and I hope that participants will write their comments, their appreciation in the form, but into the chat. So thank you very much, Julie Hébert. Thank you, Julie Monette. Merci pour tout. C'était très intéressant, and I hope I will have the opportunity to exchange together with you another time.
Merci beaucoup, Nicole. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.